Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Terran where all of the games are going to take place on brand new maps. The first one, it is called Kill Switch and spawning right here on the right side of the map, playing with the red Terran SCVs. We have a man who previously didn't play in a whole lot of tournaments, but lately he's been signing up for everything and he's been looking really strong. We have none other than Bunny. His opponent, all the way on the left side of the map. The only Zerg player that seems confident playing late game right now with the blue Zerg drones. We're looking at Rogue's main hatchery. I notice a lot of people actually are enjoying the Bunny games quite a bit. He's been playing a lot of mass siege tank, mass liberator styles, specifically later on into the games. So rather than focusing on, well, for example, the mass ghost army and that super turtley approach that a lot of the top level Terrans are very fond of, Bunny plays a lot more aggressive. And in general, he just plays different unit composition than all of the, or unit compositions rather, than all of the other top-level Terran players in the world right now. So I think it's a lot of fun. We're going to find out exactly what ended up going down. This is from the Team Liquid map contest. You can still go ahead and vote for your favorite maps. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure when I'll be publishing this. I'm also not entirely sure when the voting will end. But either way, the TLMC is currently still ongoing. And if you notice some of the maps, well, are some of your favorites, you should definitely go ahead and leave your vote, because it's much more likely at that rate that, well, the map that gets voted a lot makes it onto the StarCraft 2 tournament ladder at some point in the future. Now, this map is a little bit funky. I've seen one game, and it was a pretty short game, but I've seen one game on this map so far, where we have these, like, inhibitor zone generators, right? Obviously, it's mirrored on the other side of the map, too, so there's these slow circles right over here. And then the main base, behind a bunch of skinny golden mineral fields, has a watchtower? The main base has a Xel'Naga watchtower. I don't really know exactly how impactful it is, and whether or not you really get any use out of it, but it's weird. I don't remember ever seeing a map in StarCraft 2 where you get a watchtower for free. Now, I think the reasoning is that the players don't actually spawn in a corner. So most of the time, players spawn in a corner on StarCraft 2 maps. On this one, you kind of spawn, you know, somewhere near the middle. And I guess to keep it reasonably safe, you may need some additional vision. And, well, taking a watchtower, I guess, is one way to try to not die early on. I think actually, so I've been thinking about it a little bit. I think what you need to do is mine out the specific mineral fields. Don't mine out everything and open a second ramp into your main base. That's kind of useless, but just mine out the mineral fields over here. Take the watchtower. Maybe you knock down the rocks, and then you take down the watchtower. It seems pretty straightforward in my mind. Anyway, obviously this is mostly a nerf to Terran and Protoss drops. Well, I guess Rogue has been doing quite a bit of, like, mass Nidus Worm and some Overlord drops and, well, all of the Changeling shenanigans too, so yeah, maybe we'll see some sort of drops later on, but I can imagine most of the time Medevacs are going to be much more bothered by this than any of the units that Zerg can produce early on. Maybe a Muta build is technically a little bit more tricky, as Rogue does start working away here at the minerals. If you just let him mine all of this out, though, you just invite a secondary entrance for Hellions to ride up into your main base. Now, he is making a Roach Warren. I guess there is also a chance that Terran is only ever going to expect that you send roaches through the center of the map. Maybe if you mine out the mineral fields over here in the back and then you use that as a way to sneak roaches towards the other side, I mean, that's kind of a cool idea. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but it's a cool idea. A lot of options here. Now, we have already seen these slowing circles come into mix over here in the middle of the map, so I know there's some collapsible rocks. I'm not exactly sure. When you kill these rock towers, right, do they destroy the inhibitor zones? Maybe. Overall, though, gotta say, I do love the look of this. So, indeed, look, the timing is pretty much flawless. 9 roaches are just about to finish up. And the same thing that's finishing up right now is that drone creating a little corridor for the roaches to scoot between. So I think we're gonna send them all through that, well, that little gap. And if Bunny doesn't see this coming, he could actually be in a world of trouble. It's a very sneaky way to open up with roaches. So there they go. Following each other one step at a time. Luckily, though, for Terran, this is a Banshee start. So he's got Hellion Banshee. So assuming he's got the units in the right position, he should be A-okay against this. Either way, Banshee is already back home. He's not really taking any chances. I think Bunny has sniffed out that something is a little bit wrong. He hasn't really seen anything, as we have a big group of Zerglings now also making their way through that hole. The scan in the main base will reveal that something's up. I think he noticed the saturation or the lack thereof, and he's recognized that this is indeed a roach flood with Zerglings on the back of this, and it's going to be a complete all-in. Only 34 workers here for Rogue. He's already got some Ravagers that finished up. It's 3, so that's perfect to be landing some corrosive biles on any important, well, Terran units. The problem is, man, those Banshees are so good. Banshees are the perfect unit in this type of setup. It was a nice idea from Rogue, but it didn't work at all. Bit of an early GG, of course, from Rogue. But the thing is, he was fighting up a ramp. There was a bunker. 2 Banshees were already shooting his units down, and obviously, well, Terran was ahead in not just the worker count, but also with the mules and everything, their economy was about twice as big as that of the Zerg. So, not a situation that Rogue could easily recover from, and since we are playing a best of 5, I can't really blame him for leaving that game a little early, because honestly, that was never really going to go anywhere. Problem is, when you do ultimately lose those roaches on the other side of the map, the Hellions and the Banshees are then going to go across again, and you need to continuously make more units to try and not die in the process. So even if Rogue wanted to drone on the back of that, yeah, he just simply was never going to give, he was never going to be getting the chance at the very least. So Bunny was going to continuously be annoying, and it's just one of those games where sometimes you just need to rip off the Band-Aid. Now, we find ourselves on Antimatter. This is the map where the mini-map in the bottom left corner of your screen does not match the actual map layout at all. I'm very confused about. I mean, I guess the layout is fine, but all of the little decorative bits are missing on the minimap, and for some reason, the minimap has an entirely different color scheme than the actual map. Like, this is the one with the Harry Potter scar right over here in the middle. Some people call it a lightning bolt, but no. That's clearly the Harry Potter scar. It's a bit weird, though. I'm not exactly sure why the minimap looks so different than the actual map. Like, I don't think the map has any green on it at all. For some reason, the minimap is so green it's almost yellow. Anyway. That's one of the sentences of all time. It's going to be a quick triple hatch opener here for Rogue. Skipping the gas geyser for now. This is what I like to call the Dark build. Dark loves doing this. It is a generally considered to be quite a risky play, because if Terran decides to go for example, a triple Rex opener or any sort of early game aggression, you're in a world of trouble. Now, this map does have an in-base expansion, and as far as in-base expansions go, I mean, I'm never a huge fan, but this is a decent way of doing it, because at least you're reasonably exposed. The maps that have an in-base expo where you just expand in the direction of the opponent, I never really like those, but this is going to be one that I think Rogue can likely get away with. Yep. Not really a whole lot Bunny can do about this anymore. He will now see that there's no gas. And that really gives him all the information he truly needs. It's just double checking it. So when it's an entirely gasless opener, it means that Terran, well, first off, they know that Zerg economy is going to be big, but it also means that Terran is not going to be bothered by like until like maybe minute 6 or so. There's really not a whole lot Zerg is ever going to do on the back of this. Link speed is not going to finish, obviously, anytime soon. A roach push like the one that we saw in the previous game, not really an option. So Bunny can just sort of do whatever, and apparently what he likes to do is build command centers of his own. Rogue's like, yo, you want a macro? And Bunny was like, yo, don't mind if I do. It's a large map. Takes a long time to get across. Let's see. Yeah, a little bit of shenanigans. Spore Crawler coming up too, and that'll be the end of that Reaper. Reaper gets to hang out on the little pillar over here before it ultimately fades away. There he goes. Buddy was like, Accio Reaper! Accio Reaper! And it didn't work. He was probably confused as well by the lightning bolt. AKA the Harry Potter scar. Harry Potter jokes. Can we still make those? I don't know. Is it a boomer behavior now to make Harry Potter jokes? Like, do only old people? Yeah, in case you're wondering about all of the monster cans all over, the TLMC, as we do have the Hellions, driving in, actually, this could be the end of a game. There's a lot of damage. Expelliarmus Rogue! Do it! 6 drones. This is one of the downsides of obviously opening up gasless. Yeah, the TLMC, the Team Liquid map contest, it is sponsored by Monster. So I don't get paid for this. Definitely not. I mean, you guys watching my content and Patreon supporters and the Twitch subscribers and all that. I guess that in a way, yeah. But I'm certainly not sponsored by Monster. But they do sponsor the tournament that this map pool or this map contest is part of. And the final version of the maps are obviously not gonna have any of those sponsorship logos. Although Monster, you should call me. I would, I wouldn't mind. If you're, we don't have any long-term channel sponsors at this point in time. I don't do a whole lot of promotional content in general. But hey, if you guys, Anyways. Cloak Banshee. Gotta finish up again. I like the Cloak Banshees in general. This is like one of those builds that you can't really go wrong with as a Terran player. Loads of command centers. Hellion Banshee is just to keep it safe, but also to continuously put on pressure, to delay the creep spread and all the rest of it. This is as close to a perfect Terran opener as you can get. Took us a long time to figure out what the best way to open up is as a Terran player. Well, this is basically it. Now, Zergs don't have doors. Yeah, it's actually not great for Rogue. No, he can make... Oh, God. That's not a wall, dude. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Yeah, you can try and be Dark, but Dark is a bit of a madman. I mean, to be fair, I've seen a lot of Dark games where he is opening up like this, and it also sort of looks like this. And you're like, well, Dark, I don't think this is a build. It's all very messy. And that was way more value than Bunny was ever hoping for. So 8 Hellions for 14 drones? Whew. Not bad whatsoever. Now, the nice thing about this build, though, for Zerg is that you over-drone so hard that even when you lose that many drones, you're still fine. So maybe it's one of those things where you actually kind of need to deal that level of damage as Terran. And it can kind of put Terran in a weird position where they now believe that they're very far ahead. Don't get me wrong, this is certainly an advantage here for Bunny. But because this is such an aggressive early game here, economically speaking, for Zerg, you don't really find yourself at that big of an advantage. So Hive is already coming. This is before the 7-minute mark. We have a Hydralisk den. We'll see a Lurker den in just a moment. Rogue is basically just trying to get to like 80 workers as quickly as possible while trying to not die. That's essentially the entire goal. And as long as he gets there with at least the majority of his workers intact, life is generally okay. Ooh, using the boost inside of a slow zone. Little ugly. Yep, so there's the Lurker Den coming up. Lurker Den before Zergling speed. It's a super greedy build. I really don't think this is a great opener, to be honest, for Zerg. But because Terrans have completely... Well, not completely, I guess. But for the most part, they have stopped doing that mass Reaper opener. Remember, like, the 3-5 Reaper build that we saw in, like, 80% of the games, like, over the last few years? That is completely no longer the standard now for Terran. It's still good. Nothing's really changed in that department. Queens are more expensive, so you'd imagine maybe it's even better than it once used to be, but I guess the hatchery is a few seconds earlier because that's 25 minerals cheaper. Anyways, that's still a build that's perfectly viable. There's a lot of risks that you have to take in order to play like this as Zerg. And I really believe that Terran should be able to punish this with relative ease, which I guess also explains why we don't really see the Zerg players going for this every single game. Because if they went for this sort of build every single game, well, they'd be in a world of trouble. We do see, however, the Terran's going for this build that Bunny is going for right now. 90% of the time, I would say. Triple CC, Hellion Banshee. It is just so incredibly strong. So, effectively, this is a like an 8-minute no-rush type of build, where both players are just rushing economy and they're just trying to build up as much tech as possible. So we're not even 9 minutes in. Look, Lurkers are already coming. Lurker ranged already building. We have 4 bases saturated here for Rogue. This will be the first committed attack, though, from Bunny. He's been able to do whatever he likes. And this should be a really holdable push. But, I mean, you still have to respect it. Yeah, there's 3 Lurkers, but they have to be in the right position. Blinding Clouds will also be an option, but this is like the last moment before Rogue gets comfortable. He's putting his feet up right now. He's got a decent-sized army, but his units are not quite in the perfect spot. Siege tanks do get denied, but this is still a good attack here for Bunny, who decides to just surround this to the best of his abilities. Still a handful of lurkers available, though, just to be a nuisance. Very nicely done, actually, by Bunny. Yep. I hadn't heard of Bunny's name, or I didn't see really Bunny participate in a whole lot of tournaments for a while there. But it's very clear to me that he's been playing, putting his head down, putting in the hours, and it's paying off, man. He's destroying Rogue. GG. Wow. Next up, we find ourselves on Torches. So it's really not that Rogue is playing absolutely terrible, right? It's not like I'm looking at one of my own ladder games. No, Rogue is playing pretty good. It's just that most Zerg players that aren't named Dark just can't get away with a little bit of sloppiness, right? Like Dark, we watch his games, he does a similar build, and somehow he always wiggles his way out of it. It's a bit messy. His strategies are always a little wonky, but, well, that previous game happens when the Terran player plays a near flawless match. Honestly, not really detecting any faults so far in Bunny's gameplay. I've been very focused on what Rogue has been up to in both of the games, I guess. Bunny is just macroing, right? He's not really doing anything fancy. He's just doing what the very best Terran players in the world do. Yeah, it's nice. So, like I said, Bunny, he doesn't really play in a whole lot of tournaments, or at least historically. He only really ever played in the biggest offline events. Right now, there's not really any offline events happening. So, I guess he's decided that it's time to reveal his form, right? It's time to step out of the hyperbolic time chamber, take off the pump cover, and, well, show us what you're really made of. It's nice to see. Bunny's actually been really impressing me. When I first cast a game of his again, maybe like a week and a half or so ago, I really wasn't sure what to expect. But he's been looking strong. Okay. Well, Torches is the weird map with the shared bases in the middle. So we have a shared base over at the 3 o'clock, and then also a shared expansion over at the 9 o'clock. I get my torches down in... Wait, no. That's Peaches. Peaches would be a great map name, too. I get my... I get my torches down in Georgia. I don't even know where Georgia is. I'm assuming Justin Bieber did not mean the, you know, country. I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. Command center on the low ground. Factory inside of the main base. Reaper into a Marine. We should see a reactor. Bunny's not really taking any chances. So, no gambles. We have an SCV scout leading the Reaper. So even though he's leading this series right now 2-0 and he has all the wiggle room in the world, he is still making sure that he is as safe as he can possibly be. As a matter of fact, if you're a Terran player, you actually should have a close look at exactly what Bunny did in the previous 2 games. And likely what he is going to be doing as well in this one. Because this is just stock standard, great Terran gameplay. And exactly the way you should try to open up. It's actually one of those builds that you can just practice in custom games a million times over until you can dream it. And then you can start worrying a little bit about that, well, unit aggression, right? The early game micro. It's difficult to do all of the macro and then also do all of the unit control at the same time on the other side of the map. But this is one of those things that you can actually just practice against the very easy AI. Try to perfect the build order. It might take you, I don't know, 100 attempts. But it will be some of the very best practice you can do in Terran versus Zerg, because technically this is one of those builds that doesn't really have any weaknesses. So, once more, we're going to go into the tech lab. Hellion production has begun. We will see the switcheroo in just a moment to get the benchy going. Third command center can go on over towards the low ground, and life's going to be okay. Now, apparently Bunny really wants to get to the other side of these rocks. So badly so that apparently we're even using the Reaper and the Hellions, 2 units that are absolute garbage at killing structures. These debris, by the way, they do slowly bleed out. And at about the 8-minute mark, 7 minutes and like 52, I believe, is when they bleed out. And then suddenly the entire right side of the map becomes accessible. Alternative way to get in there is obviously to mine out these rich mineral fields, but then obviously Bunny is also creating a vulnerability in his own defense. Yeah, I guess you can't really use the Hellions for anything else anyway, right? So Rogue cleverly mining out these skinny mineral fields early. He's been able to take that third base really nice and quickly. And the alternative attack path here for the Hellions would be this ramp. I mean, good luck. Not really much you can do there. Overlord is scouting all of this, though, so Rogue knows what's coming. Banshee is now out. Barracks number 2 and 3 are coming up. Third command center flies on down towards the low ground. I really do like the look of this map, by the way. There's a healing circle all the way onto the left side of the map. And those shared expansions are kind of nice. I don't know how useful they will ever truly be. But it's a really cool concept. The only downside is that in real life, the torches meta really has been, yeah, ever since the invention of electricity. Yeah, the torch meta really has gone down. So maybe this is nice and reminiscent for, like, your grandparents or something. I don't know. Yeah, not as easy an opener here for Bunny this time around. So he'll be forced to play a big macro game once more. Rogue not bothering with roaches this time around. We are just gonna go straight into what seems to be a full Ling Bane army. I got my roaches down in. Wait, no. Torches, peaches, roaches. A lot of overlap. Any two-syllable word, really. Not a bad early game here, though, for Bunny. Some of this aggression does look a little bit scary. The real problem, of course, here for Terran is when Baneling speed finishes. And that'll be a big power spike for Rogue. Specifically, though, when it comes to base defense. This base is already running a little low on HP again. This is the 4th hatch of the Zerg. The only problem, and the one problem that I really foresee here in Rogue's future, is the fact that he's going into this Ling Bane army. And Ling Bane always leads to Ultras. And Ultras never lose you to, or never win you the game. You never... Remember the last time you've seen a Zerg player win? With Ultras? No, me neither. Doesn't happen. Unless you have a phenomenal early game. But Ultras really do seem like kind of a garbage unit. Rogue has lost that queen, which is kind of unfortunate for him. It does slow everything down a bit, but very recoverable at this stage in the game. But yeah, Bunny is just facing him head on. Not afraid, apparently, to be playing that macro game against Rogue, who's always been known as a phenomenal late-game player. Tentacle rocks are starting to break down now. I actually don't know what the official name for these things is. I always have been calling them tentacle rocks. But I guess that's not the actual name. The only problem is that if I ever go back to professional broadcasts, I'm definitely going to slip up and call them tentacle rocks. Which is... I should probably start I should probably figure out what the official term is supposed to be. And start using that instead. Because when I begin autopiloting in tournaments, it's... Anyways, it's okay. Good siege tank position over here. He's hitting right before those rocks do run out. Okay, Ling Bane is done though. Yeah, so he's got himself some roly-poly banelings. Very useful. Yeah, I don't really mind that fight too much for Bunny. It's obviously not the greatest one. But I don't think he can really be too bothered by it. Second factory, by the way, did just now finish up. Yep, there it is. And we are making the switch on over towards drilling claws instead. So Widow Mines will be the weapon of choice here moving forward. Siege tanks are apparently a thing of the past. I'm sorry, buddy, if you thought you were gonna get friends. Tough luck. 2-2 coming up. Sam as well right now for Rogue, who is indeed going into a quick hive. Guys, this is leading towards Ultras. I think Ultras are excellent when you're ahead, but this is not a situation where Rogue is ahead. I would like to be proven wrong, but every time I see Ultras, it just is pretty much a Zerg loss immediately. Now, Bunny has been refusing, like I said, to be playing Ghosts. So he's been going a lot of, well, Mass Liberator, a lot of Mass Siege Tank. When you're going Widow Mines, you do really need Ghosts. I don't really think you can go into... Well, I guess you could go Lips if you really wanted to, but... Ghosts are just... It kind of feels like a weird luxury problem, you know? Terrans in the late game are trying to decide which perfect unit they want to build. Is it going to be the Ghost? Is it going to be the Liberator? I don't know, dude. Do we take the Bentley today, or do we take the Rolls Royce? I don't know. It's a hard call to make sometimes, man. This is a nice engagement here for the Terran player. Marines on the high ground, Marines on the low ground, although the splitties will be a necessity. He's baiting them in the direction of the Widow Mine. Rogue, though, he knows what's happening here. Not really taking any chances. So, Hive is done. And there's the Ultra Cavern. I want to believe every top-level Zerg keeps playing this build. And maybe I'm just accidentally casting the games that aren't great. But I see them playing this build over and over and over again, and it never does anything. Aggression suddenly, though, has been ramped up. Zergling counterattack. Marine drops all over. Widow Mines in the middle of the map, too, to try and shut down this, well, shared expansion. Rogue never learned to share, apparently. Ling Run by, though, has been cleaned up by those early game Banshees. They have now got 20 combined kills. Marine drop in the far top left. Still going to town. Okay. Marine drop inside of the main base going in. Widow Mines are once more recharging. Reinforcing Terran units have made their way towards that gold base. I don't think this is going to be a game where I will be suddenly a believer in the strength of the Ultras. I believe what we are watching here is Bunny absolutely massacre Rogue. I figured this was going to be a close series, but Bunny is making Rogue look like a Diamond League player or something. I don't know, dude. Don't get me wrong, Diamond League players are real good, but they're going to have a hard time against a top-level Terran. And Diamond Leaguers never play Vipers, let's be real here for a second. But especially not at minute 11. Not a chance. What Ultra is coming? I don't know, dude. Spawning pool has been destroyed by this drop inside of the main base. Again, Ultras. Don't even bother. Don't even try. I mean, that was a super quick game. Let's do a best of 3 on the back of this. Spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the man who just got absolutely demolished by Terran. We're looking at Rogue's main hatchery. His opponent this time around, certainly this will be a way easier setup for him, right? Playing with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than MaxPax, the highest ranked Protoss player on the planet. Game number 1. We're on Spirit Crusher. Now, this was actually played on a different day, so I don't think it is safe to assume that Rogue is... Yeah, no, I don't think his Spirit is going to be crushed. I mean, maybe. But at the very least, that previous series should not be affecting him here. Let's see. Now, obviously, all memes aside, MaxPax is a phenomenal player. It's always tricky to really decide if he's the best or if Hero is the best, but MaxPax is an absolute god at Protoss. Haven't actually been casting that many of his games as of late. He's been playing in practically everything. But I guess I don't know. I've been casting a lot of other games instead. But if you do an online tournament and there's a few $100s on the line, MaxPax will probably sign up. Okay. Hatch gas pool here for Rogue. Nothing of a surprise. This is obviously a different matchup, so triple hatch, gasless opener. Not really a great choice against Protoss. MaxPax going into the Cybercore right now, and on the back of this, we should pretty much always see a Stargate build. Feels to me like he's actually miswalled himself. This is too big of a space. He's gonna have 2 holes in the wall, which is not ideal. I think this one needed to be 1 square backwards, like so. Yeah. Keep in mind that the maps are very new. So I can imagine that these players also haven't played that many games. Either that or I'm wrong. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not. I don't want to make any strict claims here. But I'm fairly certain that Cybercore should have been 1 square back and maybe even a gateway too. Stargate inside of the main base though. It'll just be a little bit trickier if Zerg decides to do a big link flood. So we do have the quick Zergling speed here. If Rogue picks up on the fact that this is indeed a mispositioned wall, he could go ahead and just make a big round of links. Either they could deal damage when Protoss tries to take a third Nexus at like 350. Wait until the Oracle is on the other side of the map, try to slow down the third Nexus, or they could just run into the natural at that point. It's a real opportunity. But obviously, Rogue would have to be paying attention to that exact info, and I think he probably noticed it. I don't really know exactly if he's confident about it, though, because this is one of those things where MaxPax is usually extremely clean. MaxPax definitely is a spreadsheet guy. MaxPax is definitely the type of guy who's like making budgets and, you know, making sure that he is not spending any more on groceries than he scheduled the month before and all that sort of thing, you know? So I would imagine that MaxPax, you know, it's safe to assume MaxPax has figured out how to wall on this map already. But yeah, I don't think that is it. Anyways, Rogue is not going to be using it to his advantage. Obviously, if you do make a big round of links right now, this is a super quick third. He's actually doing it before the second gate. So 3:35 or so on this. That's super fast. Yeah, if this was a big swell of Zerg links with link speed finishing up, I don't think you could really do it. Oh my god. What? Dude, that... Hold up, I'm gonna back up. I'm not losing my mind here, right? This looks like it's 4 squares wide. It's not. Maybe it's the pattern in the background that is like throwing me way off here. But that looks like there's way too much space. I'm gonna have nightmares over Spirit Crusher now. Look at that, it fits perfect. Huh. Alright, scratch all of that. Ignore everything I say. To be fair, I have played my fair share of Protoss, but wall building has never been my strength. No, walling off with structures. This is one of the downsides when you've played too much Zerg over the years. As a Zerg player, you just kind of throw down your structures, okay? You don't really worry about where they go so much. Like, maybe the early ones, you kind of want to worry about it a little bit. You do make sure, obviously, that your hatchery is centered. Like, for example... Well, Rogue decided to replace it there because it wasn't quite in the middle. But other than that, you don't really care so much about your structures. When you play Terran and Protoss, it suddenly becomes very important. Turns out MaxPax does already know the perfect way to wall off. Fair enough. He must have been checking out that Gemini walling guide on Reddit. I don't think it's available yet for these maps, but... There's always a walling guide. Fun fact, actually, in StarCraft 1... The wall that you need to do depends not only just on the width of the choke point, right? But also on every single spawn location. So pretty much every single map in every single spawn location has a different way to wall off. And if you don't do it perfectly, yeah, you're kind of screwed. You basically need to get a... Ooh, this is a good snipe. Yeah, that Void Ray actually coming in clutch. That's the 4th kill. It's a really, really nice set of snipes here so far on a single Void Ray. It's 3 OVs together with a Queen. If the Void Ray could smile, it would have a very smug look on its face right now. Oh, look, let's get another kill. Patrolling Zerglings, no big deal. Now, he hasn't really killed any economy, so I guess that's suboptimal, but there's still certainly a chance that a Stalker attack can work out nicely. Rogue, though, did go for the blind +1 melee. And +1 melee is going to finish up right around the same time as the Blink Stalker together with the +1. So he should be able to defend this attack. If he would have taken a lot of worker losses at this point in the game, these type of attacks are very difficult to hold, but he should be okay. So we've skipped the Roach Warren. And he's decided to go Ling Bane with speed instead. Stasis? Okay. Good stasis. Still though, these links, yep, this is not a bad spot at all for the Zerg. Although I say that Oracle is still having a grand old time. In the meantime, by the way, the Void Ray. Oh, dude, this legendary Void Ray is putting in so much work. No way. Ay. Rogue cannot catch a break. I guess he's finally catching some of those Stalkers, so that's something, but Recall is going to complete on, I think, at least one? Yeah, just the one. So this attack has been pushed away, but I mean, that's still a lot of links going down for 10 Stalkers. Losing the 5th hedge, certainly not ideal. 4th Nexus in the meantime is starting up. Now at the very least though, Rogue is going to have a little bit of pushing potential. So he should be able to go for the High-Rolling Bane here and maybe put on some pressure. If he can snipe a Nexus, that would be huge. Charge is only about 80% of the way done or so. Baneling speed is finishing right now. I don't believe though that Rogue really is ready to go for a push. Are we going to morph Banes? Nah. Archons are already here too. Storm right now on the back it is. Dude, this Void Ray. Rogue's gonna have freaking nightmares. I shoot laser. See ya. Oh, well, never mind. It realized that it couldn't make it. Moment of respect, please. For the Void Ray. Yeah, you can hit the like button for the Void Ray. That's how you pay your respects. It was well worth it. +2 melee. Coming up right now for Rogue, who's going to go into the full glass cannon build. So we're doing double upgrades, no armor, no survivability. We're only playing units that deal maximum damage and have no HP. That's the goal. We want the fights to last in total about 2 seconds. That's what Rogue is aiming for. MaxPax though is embracing that style. Rather than building big and beefy units of his own, he's going to go for Storm. So this will be 2 wizards. This is like Saruman going up against Gandalf all over again. The only question is, who's better? Fleet Beacon coming up. So this is where Protoss really likes to go into the Mama ship. I'm a little afraid that in this instance, Rogue is Gandalf. MaxPax, I mean, certainly could be Saruman here. He's looking extremely dangerous. Big Zealot warp in inside of the main base. Prism does end up going down. In the meantime, we do have some Banelings over here, but the Storms do push away some of those Zerg units. Archon's kind of caught awkwardly, though, on the... Okay, around the side. I think it's about the best case fighting here that our Zerg player could really hope for. Lots of drones, though, have gone down, and those Zealots have still just been, yeah, hitting the Zerg player in the face. One of the downsides of these very low HP armies is that you really have to look at the fight. That sounds a bit silly, maybe, but a lot of the Zerg engagements, you kind of just set the attack move and then look away. With this type of unit composition, you can't really afford accidentally having your Banelings roll into a bunch of Archons, for example. So he was really focused on trying to fight the main engagement, but in the process, he's now lost 21 drones. MaxPax escaping here with all of his workers intact. He's going into the Mama ship now. Started up to +3. We're getting into a position here where Protoss is going to outgrow the Zerg. Like, soon MaxPax is going to be able to swarm the swarm. These Zealots are mostly just here to buy time. Like, these upgrades and this Mama ship, it takes a long time. It's not easy to get out, but once it spawns, I mean, it's going to be amazing. We do have a Spire coming up here for Rogue, so at least he's thinking about starting up some sort of counter. It's not like his economy is completely wasted. Okay, he's going to try and even this up a little bit with some Baneling drops, but already MaxPax, he saw it. Yeah, you try to hide your Overlords between the trees. I mean, he's kind of busy right now, though. Yeah, unfortunately. There was also a drop happening over here. Zergling pushing the top left. Looks like MaxPax managed to escape there with minimum losses. A single probe only going down. Stargate's coming up. Tempest #1 on the production tab 2. Mama is just about to spawn. 5th Nexus building all the way up north. I mean, this is looking like it's smooth sailing right now for Protoss. Although this is certainly not an easy game. We are now arriving at the late game territory, right? Or we're getting at least in that stage right now of the matchup. And generally speaking, Zerg players tried to prevent that. A lot of Zerg players here tried to prevent ever getting to this position. With the way that Protoss currently works, the late game seems to be favoring them quite a bit. Although every Protoss has a plan until Serral joins the battlefield. I really consider Rogue, though, to be maybe not quite on par with Serral when it comes to, like, playing late game, but historically, Rogue has been an absolute late game monster. Yeah, it's hard to really judge. I really don't think that late game is particularly great right now for Zerg. All of the units are a little bit mediocre. I guess the main thing is that Zerg doesn't really have tier 3 units, right? Like, Brute Lords are kind of eh. Lurkers are kind of eh, but not really tier 3. Ultras are kind of eh. Lurkers are definitely the best, but... Infestors and Vipers, I guess, are decent, but also not really, like, true tier 3 units. Storm. Good. Archon? Okay. He's fighting over here in the middle of the map, too. Stormy boys, though, still helping out. Banelings rolling in. As long as this is a trade out, it should be okay for Protoss. He can just warp in some reinforcements in that area. In the meantime, though, this is the real army we need to be looking at. Ultra Cavern goes down, so that's probably an indicator that Rogue is going to be leaving this game within about the next minute. That seems to be what Ultras do these days. You make Ultra Cavern, you lose within a minute. New theory. New Loco theory. As soon as you plant down the Ultra Cavern, after it finishes, the clock starts ticking. You have 60 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. The idea obviously here for Rogue is to try and wipe all of those flying units off the screen. He's got to do a Hydra Corruptor. Zealot run by. Oh, well, it's not just Zealots. Zealot run by together with Archons and then a bunch of High Templar and all the rest of it. Moving in as well on the right side of the map. Storm's not really achieving all too much here just yet. That base up north, though, is now properly up and running. High Templar are throwing water balloons at a Nexus. Or a hatchery, rather. The entirety of the Protoss army, though, still has to be dealt with. Yeah, MaxPax is just dancing back and forth. Playing this a lot more cautiously, actually, than he did like a month ago. Ultra Cavern is done, by the way, so I'm assuming this game is going to end soon. I'm not sure that Rogue can fight this army. I mean, this is not the... Oh my god. There's another 5 Archons wandering in. I was going to say, he needs some more beefiness with this, well, Protoss ball. And he's just got that perfect timing here by MaxPax. Stasis wards are nice and all. We did get some decent storms. Yeah, the entirety of the Zerg army has just disappeared. A lot of lings going around the back, though. Banelings hitting Archons? Yeah. It's just not it, guys. It's like, that looks like a decent fight for Zerg. But ultimately, that is a way more expensive army to lose. And obviously, Banelings are just like a one-time use, right? You don't get to reuse your Banelings. MaxPax already rebuilding a lot of these really powerful units now. Rogue realizes that this is never going to happen, and I don't think it was quite within a minute of the Ultra Cavern finishing up. But it was pretty close to it. Okay, and that takes us to Torches. I mean, don't get me wrong, those games are obviously very close. It looks different when you have a super solid early game as Zerg. Yeah, keep in mind though that Rogue didn't really lose anything critical. I would say that the biggest problem he ran into was that Void Ray. That Void Ray killing the 4th hatch, and then before that, like 3 Overlords, that's too much. But it also feels a little brutal to me that, you know, a mistake you made... like, what, 12 minutes prior to the end of the game is ultimately what the game can be drawn back to. Very little comeback potential, it feels like, but that is obviously the brutality and just the fact of StarCraft 2 these days. Players are so good that really the only way you can really get back is if they make a significant blunder. And guys like MaxPax, they do play this game in a very robotic way, and they don't generally make a lot of mistakes. The Ultra really is an interesting unit to me, though. Because we see Zerg players giving it a try all the time. Like, we see them Ultra Caverns going down in, like, half the games these days. But then even when Ultras spawn, they do very little. I'm not sure why Zerg players are in love with the Ultras. They've got to be playing games where the Ultra is actually working. But I think it might be matches or something against people that are just a little bit lower than, well, the opponents we've been seeing lately. Maybe against players below, like, the absolute, like, cream of the crop, right? So players below, like, the top 20 or so. Maybe Ultras are amazing then. I'm not sure. But against the MaxPaxes, the bunnies of this world, it just does not seem like a great choice. Anyway, now we find ourselves on Torches once again. MaxPax being a little bit of a bully, forcing the horizontal base to be taken first. Even if Rogue wanted to go for the triangle expansion as his third expansion here eventually, he was going to need to mine out these mineral fields, and it's not going to happen. So blocking the Zerg's natural there does seem like a great choice. So you know at the very least exactly where their expansions are going to go. Stargate. Stargate again. You want to see a magic trick? I'm going to show you a magic trick. Watch this. It's going to be an Oracle first this time around, I think. With this type of spawn location, yeah, it just makes sense. Okay, we're back. Sick magic trick, right? Adepts in the meantime, dancing back and forth for a little bit. We did have a couple of links running in, so now Rogue will see that this is the most normal way to open up, but at least he doesn't have to worry about a Void Ray here early on. Let's see. Bunch of Zerglings going in. Double Adept in the wall off, though. Not going to achieve too much. That does slow the Zerg player down a bunch. And this, oh, jeez. I think he made the assumption that this was going to be a Void Ray first. He's like 3 seconds late on that Spore Crawler, but he immediately pays the price. So now we have a weird spot where Rogue made a bunch of Zerglings that did nothing. Every 2 Zerglings could have been a drone. And then he also lost 6 drones, of which I would say like 4 were more than he needed to. Now, I guess he slowed down the third Nexus for like 2 seconds. He's gonna have to make sure that he drones up here quickly. One of the reasons, by the way, why we do see quite a bit of early game damage again from Protoss players against Zerg is because of the fact that the Queen is 25 minerals more expensive with the latest patch. It really doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but the early game is extremely tight. Yes, Spore Crawlers are better, but the problem with Spore Crawlers is that when you make one, not only do you pay the minerals for the Spore Crawler, but you also sacrifice a drone. So every Spore Crawler you make is essentially the equivalent of the opponent killing a drone. And if they're opening up Void Ray first, you don't really want to be sacrificing your own drones like that, so you probably want to delay it instead. We have a lot of Zerglings coming up. Rogue wants to pretty much go and commit to this push, but this honestly feels like a frustration play. Oh, yeah, we're gonna bring the Queens as well? I don't believe in this attack at all. Maybe. It's going to be Zerglings together with Queens. I mean, Oracles are going to be hard to deal with. MaxPax also doesn't believe in it at all. He decides to just start up the upgrades. Those are not gonna kick in until several minutes from now. I can't believe he started up the upgrades. These are expensive upgrades, too. He's like, nah, I'm not worried about this. He's probably not going to commit that hard. Well, this is obviously where that energy recharge ability is coming in clutch as well. Using it here to get some additional firepower on those Oracles. Shield batteries are technically nerfed compared to where they once were, but, I mean, you can't overcharge them anymore, but they're still quite beefy. They have a little bit more HP now, too, with the latest patch, and this is not doing anything. Nah. That Nexus is surely not going to die. I think this is Rogue actually just tilting a little bit. GG. I don't think he was really feeling the game anymore. That seemed to me like a pure desperation play. And after he decided to run all of the Zerglings across the map and then all of the Queens, I mean, he sacrificed so much economy and he achieved nothing. He killed what? An Oracle and 2 shield batteries? That was certainly not worth it. GG. Phenomenal gameplay, of course, here by MaxPax. For a player to start tilting, it requires a very strong opponent in general, right? And I don't think MaxPax really made any critical mistakes throughout any of these games.